seem crazy what I'm about to say.
Hi, everybody. I'm so sorry that I'm not with you today. I'm at a conference at NJPSA at a legislative conference, and I'm hopefully going to be meeting the new Commissioner of Education. We'll see. She's expected to show up. But I want to thank you guys all for coming today on a Friday in March. I know that you're all tired. It's been a long year, and this is, the hard crunch time. So I'm going to try to go as quickly as I can. I know that Sarah has done a great job talking to you about the foundation and building that house. We're building a school right now, as you know. So we're under construction, and that's been our theme all year, and how we are under construction personally as human beings, right? And how do we grow and become the best versions of ourselves, but also as a school, brick by brick by brick, and then what happens inside of this school building. And so we're building that with a framework. So you're going to hear a little bit about the framework. You heard from Sarah a little bit about the rigor piece that we're doing. So what is that? It's a framework that we are using. So let me get started. I'm going to share my PowerPoint. I'm going to do my best because I know it's hard when I don't have an audience and I'm just kind of talking to myself right now. So I'm going to do my best to kind of give you the overview of what we've been doing here at the middle school. And I'm really proud of the work that we have been doing. So as I said, from framework to practice, and you see our cardinal who is wearing his hard hat because this is serious business, it's hard work, and we want to be safe as well. So this framework is centered around these two books, right? So in the past, we have used the classroom instruction, the new classroom instruction that works. And really what this is a combination of a book called Learning That Sticks. And this is all about brain-based, right? Instructional design, how students actually learn or adolescents learn. And then Marzano's work, this is one that we used in 2014, which is the strategies, the instructional strategies. So they took and they looked at all of this data, this research really, combine these books together to come up with this new classroom instruction that works. And we've been using this for the last few years. And then we've added the Rigor Unveiled, as you see on the screen, the Rigor Unveiled book, which we're going to talk about in great length today. And then you're going to have these great breakout sessions with our leaders in learning as well. And so why these two books, right? And so when we talk about framework, the framework to practice, Rigor at LMS is the instructional framework. That's what guides us on how we teach, right? Rigor guides what high quality learning looks like here. That's what that framework is doing. And then the new classroom instruction that works, that was what's providing us with the strategies that we use to make the rigorous learning happen. So you can go back into this great book and find some great resources on strategies of instructional strategies that you can do in your classroom and ready-made. And then I didn't include it on this slide, but you'll hear too a little bit later, we've also been using reading nonfiction, and we've also doing signposts. And this one we are bringing back also from years in past. And Doug's going to talk about the reasons why for that a little bit later when you hear about our data work. But everything that we're doing is research based. We didn't just say, oh, this is a good idea. I had the opportunity to go to a national convention last year, and that's when I found the Rigor Unveiled. And I love Fisher and Fry. They have great work. A lot of times they will come locally here to Rutgers and they will do literacy workshops. So all of their work is great, but it's really grounded in research, but also in practice in schools. These are two researchers that are also college professors, but they're also in high schools in California working in classrooms. And so it's grounded in best practices. Okay. Moving forward. Meeting our team. So I have a great team of leaders in learning that is doing all of this, leading the work, similar to how at the high school you have been doing your AI work and you've had some experts in AI. We have experts in the rigor model here. So our team, and this is also our team that is also our data team. They're leading our data discussions. We talk about our Title I stuff. They're helping us guide the things that we are doing in our classroom. So our team, Jill Testa is one of our 7th grade math teachers. You'll see her today in class. You'll see Jeanette Capriti. She's one of our 7th grade English teachers. All of you should know Donna Macaroni, who was our keynote speaker in the beginning of the school year, our special ed teacher. Shannon Strominger is one of our house leaders, a former high school teacher as well, and she's our 8th grade social studies teacher. And then all of you also know Doug, right? Doug was also a former high school teacher, and now he's teaching 7th grade language arts, and he's our data guy. So this is our team that we have put together to drive the work that we've been doing this year. And you'll have the good fortune of seeing them all today in action. So where we started was that we needed a set of common beliefs. And so out on your tables today, you should see this chart, but this chart is also in every building in the district. It's out strategically in different places. Like I'm here in the library and I can see it all the way across the room on the wall there. We have it up in our front office by the main office on the wall, because this was done by the if you don't know, the equity coaches, the equity warriors. I don't know, Shannon, what are they called? What were they called at the last time? They've changed names so many times. But this common set of beliefs is an understanding from throughout the district about how we matter. And so when you read through this, if you just take a moment to glance at it at your table, you're looking at things about how kids feel safe and seen and heard, about having high expectations being held for all, experiencing a safe and inclusive environment, feeling part of a school community, seeing their future dreams supported, feeling the academically and emotionally supported, having opportunities to contribute and lead. And then when you look at those bullet points underneath, this really kind of guides the work that we're all doing. So we really took a look at this and how it fit back with that rigor book, our framework, and how it also fits in with classroom instruction that works. So that's the building blocks of what we've done, right? Because we want all kids to feel that they matter, that they're important, but we also want to hold them to a certain expectation, right? In all of the things that we do. So this came from district staff that came together and created this document. And like I said, those were those equity coaches that worked together to create this and guide this. And this was the work that they did with Alicia DiLorenzo last year, who was one of our guest speakers and came to lots of PDs last year. And so when we looked at that and we looked at our rigor framework, we went back also to more research. And so you see here, this is the Opportunity Makers, how a diverse group of public schools help students catch up and how far more can. So this is from the New Teacher Project. It's a nonprofit organization that's basically working to help public school systems ensure that they have effective teachers, strong teachers that are good teachers, right? And so they've done a study here that talked about what do we see in these schools. They looked at schools all over the country, and then they focused on just a few to find out what creates a culture that is the most beneficial for our students. And if you look at that slide next to it, right, most students who fall behind stay behind. And if you look at the bottom of that, right, it says, of the 28,000 public elementary and middle schools where the average student was not yet on grade level, just 5% helped the average student catch back up. Only 5% of those schools were able to catch kids back up. And they said that more than 1.43 years of annual learning was being made up. So we have a problem in this country, right? And it all starts with instruction, but also it starts with three things they found out. And so on this next slide, you see that the opportunity for our kids comes from belonging, students feeling safe and seen, consistency, all students having access to grade level content. We're so fortunate to be in a great district that we have great curriculum and great resources, but that consistency that, all students are accessing that grade level. And we've done some work this year to really question that, right? Are we doing all of the things? Are we in line with the standards and the things that we need to do? And then coherence. That's about instruction, curriculum, and does everything align together? So this, these teachers, the teachers network here, this new teachers project really looked at this and they came up with these three things, right? Belonging, consistency, and coherence. And if you go back and you look at what we did here in Lawrence Township, it's in line, right? That sense of belonging, that high expectations, having curriculum that is appropriate, that's in line with what we're doing. So it goes hand in hand, and that's part of why this rigor framework, where it comes from and how it got to be, was based on this study. All right. Just trying to see what I wanted else to tell you. It's very strange for me to be just talking to myself. I know, Dave, you think I talk to myself all the time. But again, these positive schools were creating cultures of belonging, delivering consistent grade level instruction, and building coherent instructional program. So in schools across the country, far too many students, as I said, are falling behind academically. And those who fall behind tend to stay behind. We feel the struggle here when we meet as an INRS team and we're talking about kids, and we have kids that are lifers in ASI, and we're like, what can we do differently? And then we try lots of different things. But if we don't accelerate learning at scale, millions of students may never catch up. That's what this study said. And thus, this has far-reaching implications for our students and for their futures. Are they going to be college and career ready if we don't have a strong academic program for them? But most importantly, as Sarah was talking about, that strong academic foundation. Right. And if they don't have that strong academic foundation, in that study, they said that that's one of the 5 factors for social and economic mobility. Will our kids be successful in life if they haven't had a strong academic foundation? So without that strong academic foundation, they'll be less equipped to pursue their chosen careers and achieve financial security and ultimately thrive in life. And that's what we want them to be able to do. All right. So that's where all of this comes from. That's why we selected these texts, and we're using them for the basis of the PD and really to lead our data discussions, right? We can have all of this data, but what do we do with it? And so these studies and these books have helped guide us in that process. So who are we here at LMS? And this is an important slide. Dr. Fisher came to one of our faculty meetings this past year, and she was sharing INRS data with our school counselors, helped her to have this conversation with our staff. And she shared up to 23-24. And then I just added the 25-26. And I think this is important, not only for our middle school teachers to hear, but also for you as high school teachers, because those of you that have been around for a long time like me, I'm in my 34th year here in the district. This is much different when I started in 1992. All right, just look at these years right here, going back to 2014, 2015. If you're just looking at that first line, from 24.2% to now at 41%. 41% economically disadvantaged. And I want to add this part, right, Doug? Doug's saying, I hope she says this. Yes, I'm going to say it, Doug, because he's been working with our consultant. And this is self-reported data. Economically disadvantaged is people that are applying for free and reduced lunch. So not everybody is going to fill out that paperwork. So you could probably add at least another 5%, maybe even more to that number. That's a big change in what was sitting in front of me in 1992. But it's, as you can see, it's a big change from 2014-15, 2018-19, and even 23-24. So that change, have we prepared ourselves for that change? Do we actually understand those kids that are sitting in front of us that are coming from families, and we also are feeling it, right? I think we're feeling it because we're seeing kids that have a lot more deficiencies, who are not excited about reading, who are struggling with behaviors, all of those things. So when we look at these numbers, we're seeing a major change in what Lawrence Township Public Schools look like. You're looking at our white population at 37.4%. To me, I think the biggest change also for us has been our Hispanic Latino at 26.5%. So a lot of times we say, well, it's the ELL kids, but look at that line. We're talking about 3.2%. Our greatest change has been that Hispanic Latino at 26.5%. And a lot of those kids also will end up, unfortunately, with students with disabilities, and they also may be in our economically disadvantaged category. So they're in more than one. So what can we do to ensure that students have opportunities, that they don't have learning loss, that we can catch them up, that we can create pathways for them to be successful in life? How do we create these opportunities, right? When we talk about opportunity makers, and we go back again to that sense of belonging, that consistency in the curriculum and the things that we are providing for them, and then that coherence, building a unified instructional program. And that's why a day like this is so important, so that we can have conversations, so we are connected as a middle school and a high school. So let's get into what rigor actually is, because a lot of times as I started the school year, I asked the staff here, right? Rigor is like one of those dirty words that, when staff hear it, it's like when during the pandemic, when we heard pivot, every time that we were on Zoom and everybody was drinking when you heard that. So rigor tends to be a dirty word, and people think that rigor is just about giving more homework, harder work, just more of whatever it is. That's not the case in Fisher and Fry's work. So when you look at this framework, you would think, well, it's very similar to our Danielson rubric and how we're evaluated. Yes and no. This kind of gives us that structure and processes and ideas about teaching, right? How can we also reflect on the work that we're doing? So it guides us in what we're doing. So rigor, meaning relationships, instruction, setting goals for our students, organization, and relevance. And I'm going to give you some examples of what these things look like, but each one of these boxes gives you the ideas of what good instruction looks like, and again, that consistent instruction and that coherence. So we've been doing what we call rigor walks throughout the year as an instructional team. We walk around, we are observing all of these categories, and this came after our Leaders in Learning did in October some PD, and in November PD, and then we followed up during the course and during faculty meetings having discussions, and then today you're also going to get a little bit of that this after in our later morning session. So you see here, then we also take the data. This is why Doug is so important, part of our team. He takes the data and he helps us and he assists us in modifying, to meet the needs of our students. The data guides our differentiation, our interventions, our enrichment. It helps us with our decision making. It tells us where the strengths are, where our gaps are, and we use this in conjunction with our rigor model, and specifically in these 4 areas, right? Not necessarily in the relationship category because it's a little bit different, but when we're planning for instruction, when we're setting goals for students, when we're organizing our class and setting structures, and then, is the curriculum relevant and is it meeting our needs, and are our kids seeing that relevance? And I'll give you some great examples of that in a little bit. So our goal, as I was saying to you, is to get into classrooms and see what people are doing. So as a building goal, this is what I get evaluated on, and Adrian gets evaluated on, and Sarah gets evaluated on, and Nicole gets evaluated on as our building goal, is that by May of 2026, at least 85% of our teachers will consistently implement instructional strategies that align with Fisher and Fry in instruction and relevance components from the Rigor Unveiled. So we're just kind of checking those areas. We didn't go through the whole thing. Yes, we want teachers to look at the whole rubric, but we were just concentrating as an administrative staff on those two areas because we felt those were two pertinent areas to start with. I'm always about relationships, and I think relationships always build on the things that we're doing. But these were two areas because really to make change happen, instruction needs to be at its best. We can look at data all the time, but if we do not have consistent instruction, strong instruction, we're not going to be successful. And I'm so proud of our staff because that's one of the things that I do think is our strength, is that our instruction is strong. All right. So here we go on what does it look like in action? So if you look here for relationships, obviously, right? Students' names are used in positive and productive ways. Teachers greet students at the door, and they also might reference prior learning the day before, something that's happening, things that they've learned. As we're in March now, right? We might want to remind them of things that happened in October or November, or maybe it's something that they learned in somebody else's class that they can tie in to their class. Student interactions with peers are respectful and productive. So things that we've seen is like during turn and talk, students are listening actively and responding using academic language, such as I agree with your inferences because the author suggests. Those are things that we're seeing happening in class. And I'm sure those types of things are also happening at the high school. I know they are. Academic risk-taking is encouraged, right? Teachers are publicly celebrating student thinking during notice and wonder activities. They're reinforcing the curiosity and questioning and saying that it's valued in their room. So kids know what those expectations are, and they feel that encouragement to take some academic risks. Some of these things are just what we do, right? But we're just putting a lens on it so that we know that this is where our priority is and our focus is in building that foundation, right? Did you catch it there? That's our construction theme. Instruction. So here's another word, right? Scaffolds. Strategic scaffolds support productive struggle. So sentence starters are posted or modeled to help students participate in academic discussions. That would be an example, right? Students practice and apply learning. That's part of the rubric. So we've seen students applying concepts during partner problem solving tasks, or they're doing collaborative work to analyze texts. That's happening in our classrooms. And again, we know this is just routine. This is good teaching. This is good instruction. And I know it's happening at the high school as well as the middle school. Goals. So learning goals are aligned to standards. And I think this is an area that we still need some improvement and that we're working on. Teachers are posting and referencing learning goals and targets, right? Specifically on assignments. Today, we'll analyze how evidence supports an argument. So kids know what's expected of them during that period. Maybe they just know what's expected for them for that 20 minutes that they're working on something. And I know that's been a big takeaway from a lot of our staff when they had this session earlier back in October and November about what learning goals look like and how they can communicate those learning goals with their students. The level of knowledge aligns with the standard. Students analyze textual evidence rather than simply recalling information. So we had a great session with Jean Musey, our Director of Student Achievement. She came to our January faculty meeting. Pretty sure it was January faculty meeting. And we talked about thinking and what that looks like. And I know at the high school, you guys are always talking about thinking and critical thinking and questioning. And we started looking at DOK and having an understanding of what those levels of questioning look like and how we can make it more difficult for kids so that they can think and problem solve. All right, and at the end of this rubric, right, we have organization. What's the physical environment of the room look like? Is it a clear classroom? Routines? Is there routines? Is there group work? Is there discussion? Do kids know what's expected? Is there structure? We have 82 minutes. I know you guys have similar 77 minutes. It's the same thing, 82 minutes. So is there clear classroom routines so kids have an understanding? Because our kids move, they have 4 periods a day, 4 academic periods in the day, and then 4 on the next day, but they're navigating between quarter classes, semester courses. They could have 10 to 12 different staff members throughout the year in different classes with different expectations. So it's really important to understand, what does that classroom routine look like? Student behavior is proactively managed. So teachers assigning specific student roles. We see that there's facilitators, recorders, reporters. Again, this is all part of the Danielson rubric if you looked at it. So again, it's good, strong teaching. And then relevance. 2 ones that I pointed out here are learning activates prior knowledge. So lessons may begin with prompts such as, where have you seen this type of argument before? And then here's a great example of students describing the value of learning in their own voice, right? Mr. L has majorly improved my literature skill by teaching us how to analyze and look at the true meaning of books and stories. And with some vocab practice myself, I was able to go from a 900 lexile in 6th grade to a 1400 lexile in 7th. He has made literature easier for me, and he truly knows what he is doing. I was able to capture that, what was written there. A student wrote that when they nominated Mr. L, Mr. L, Mr. Leonard, he's here, for, we call them our Heart Awards. But what's so great about this is he has a clear understanding of valuing what he's doing in that classroom, because Doug has made it the practice of what he's doing in there. He shares with them the data, and so that they understand the value and the importance of it. But ultimately, it goes back, right, to that paper that is in front of you. When we look at it, and I'm going to get to it, do we matter, and how are we teaching it, and that great instruction? Hopefully it's coming. I'm sorry. I'm going to get to it. Maybe. Let me move it this way. Let's see if I can get to it. Right here. Woo! This common set of beliefs and principles. So I urge you to read through this and see where this hits you. This is the start of our foundation, right? And as a district, we're going to be moving into strategic planning. So this is probably going to change a little bit, and our focus is going to change. But that doesn't mean that the instruction and the things that we're working on go away either. This is just one part of it. This is just one tool, to focus on the focus and to make our kids great and our teachers great. So thanks so much for listening. Again, I wish I was here with you today. I know you're going to have a great day, and I turn it over to you, Dave. Thanks so much. Have a great day, everybody.